meeting to order. We'll begin with the moment of silence and the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next, we'll have public comments, and the commission requests the comments be limited to a maximum of 5 minutes for each person. First on our list is John Stewart.
I'll be quick since we're late. I just wanted to say I think your selection of the city manager was good, of the two. Good job on that. I was just listening to this thing here, and when I was in the Army, we had a term for some of this stuff that I was just listening to, and I'm not going to say what it was, but it was kind of confusing. Well, so tonight we've already got the rates for the water, right? And we're going to talk about the sewer rates. Stormwater rates.
Yes.
Because that's not firm yet, right? Because it's between 670 and 620 per 2,500 square foot of imperviousness.
Right.
Now, who made that decision on 2,500 square feet of imperviousness? I mean, that is a...
The engineers came up with that from looking at
Other cities.
what we have on record in our properties from GIS.
It's based on an average
It's
footprint.
the average footprint of a single-family structure.
Is the 475 school district going to have to pay this? Because I didn't see anything about government properties.
Yes, they do.
Yes, they do.
Yes.
Commercial properties.
Government properties
gonna
are
get
not
expensive.
exempt from the stormwater.
No.
Wow. I don't know if that's I don't know how that works. You realize if you look at the chart, that will be the second highest on this chart if we go to 670 per 2,500 square foot of imperviousness. And I just thought that was interesting that one of those things just stuck right out. 475 is going to have to pay. Wow, that's a lot of money if you go with this rate. So tonight is not going to be. We're just going to talk about it. And on the stormwater, we already got the sewer and water rates already locked in? Is that what that is tonight? What's going on? From the agenda, that's what I looked at it's pretty much locked in. There's no decision on the water and sewer rates then tonight. There's just going to be whatever you decide and that's it. No, did we ever have any discussion about that? The rates going up? Why I'm trying to say this is
6 months.
for the last 6 months or so, I don't know if you've all been realizing, but the citizens in this town are getting nickeled and dimed to death. Between rates increases, the county raising the 6 mil, and on and on and on, this town is getting expensive to live in. And I know you all want all these nice things in your sewers and water plants and all this stuff, but I'll tell you,
We want to pass.
I know what you want, because I've been watching you for 5 or 6 years, but it's getting expensive. It's getting really expensive to live in this town. That's all I want to say.
It's not a matter of want,
Yeah, it's not a matter of wanting, it's complying with EPA.
and it's a matter of need.
Mr. Gerald?
Gerloff.
Gerloff. I couldn't read your Gerloff. I'm sorry.
I'm Gerald Gerloff from Junction City, and I listened with some interest here, these briefings about wastewater here recently, over the last couple months. And an interesting word seemed to justify all the decisions. It's fair. Well, there's no such thing as fair. If you believe there's such a thing as fair, give two little boys a piece of cake and have them divide it. And then take a cake and give it to a dozen little boys and have them divide it and see how fair is. See if they can come up with a definition of it. There's no such thing. Somebody makes it. The real interesting thing about this wastewater business is that you're moving expenses that are being paid now by the city out of the general fund or whatever it is, whatever fund it is, and you're moving it into the wastewater fund, the expense is in there, but you're moving none of the payments now over to the wastewater fund. So what you're doing is creating a larger pool of general fund and taxing, and keeping the property tax at the same level for the general fund, but increasing the cost to the homeowner or the property owner in the wastewater part of it. Now, I understand fair, but even the people, your experts that you paid several thousands, tens of thousands of dollars to, can't come up with a good definition of fair. All they can come up with is a definition of what other cities do, and they can't even for sure tell you what the real standard of the industry, in their words, is. So with all that in mind, I just like to have it kept in mind when you go through this, that there are other things that the city needs. And there is a little word from time to time that becomes very important. People don't use it as much as they should. And that little word is no, N-O. And there's a good country song. What part of no don't you understand, the N or the O? Thank you for your time, sir.
That was all we had signed up for public comments. So next on the agenda will be consent agenda.
Is the WEX program fully implemented now?
Yes, but what you saw in there from the county payment was an actual August billing the county had not gotten to us.
Okay.
They were evidently late in getting us a bill.
What was your question? The WEX program, there was a, the fuel card, there was a
Which-
payment to the county.
Which is, by the way, working beautifully, and we are saving money by going to that system.
Okay.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for approval of the consent agenda. Is there any further discussion?
None here.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The ayes have it, 4-0. Next will be public hearings. Mr. Corman?
It's there.
It's there, it's just, it's warming up.
Thank you.
There it is.
Mayor and Commissioners, we're here for the public hearing for two properties. This first one is 518 West 5th Street, and it's owned by Don Haynes, which Don spoke at the meeting to set the public hearing, and Don is here to give us a idea of what his intentions are with this structure. So, Don, do you have a few minutes? You can come up and explain to them or give them an idea of your plans for the property.
Mayor Ryan, could you open the public hearing?
Oh, yes. We need to open the public hearing for 518 West 5th.
Come on up, Don.
Yeah, come on up, Don. Yeah.
Thank you.
Donald?
Thank you, Don.
Just give me one for Commissioner.
Okay, on the property, as I said on the last meeting, I just got the property back from the investigation in September. So now I can start synopsis as far as what's going to be done. This is what I proposed as far as what needs to be done as far as the structure. And completion time, 120 days due to temperature, you know, because you got manufacturer temperatures that has, you can't paint less than 60 degrees or 65. You're caulking and stuff like, as far as sealing it. some of it can be done during the winter, during the winter months, but some of it's gonna have to be done during warmer days, or it won't hold up. As far as the shingles and that could be done anytime. And the outside structure, as far as the guttering and the fascia, and that can be done. The painting just can't be, and the gutter can't be put on until it's painted. So, this is what I got as far as a proposal. If you have any questions.
When are you gonna begin the work?
I've started work on it already. Removing the guttering, removing the fascia, the old, and started to put the new on. And the porch, as far as the front porch, the roof's been removed. Found out that the rafters was not good, so we're putting all new rafters in. And the porch was built on ground level, so that has to be taken out and put back as treated lumber or concrete. I've contacted Joaquin for putting a concrete porch in rather than a wood porch. He says temperature-wise, have to do it according to that, and also, propping it up so we can take the porch out from underneath of it. So, whole takes time on that and his schedule.
When did you get your building permit on it?
I got the permit about a week after the last meeting.
Oh, okay.
Did you have to pay for that before you left the building?
Yeah, they had to take my money first. Check first.
Just checking.
So there's already some work being initiated on this?
Yeah,
If we drive past there, we'll be able to see that?
yeah, you'll be able to see that we're tearing off right now.
I didn't notice it, but I probably didn't look deep enough. Okay.
We're in the front right now.
Okay.
You don't notice as much.
Yeah.
Do the demolition, tearing things off that need to be replaced as when they start putting it back.
Okay.
Because that all has to be tore off before you can start putting the good back.
Exactly.
And like I said, it's the porch as far as doing concrete versus treated lumber. That's just gotta be scheduled, and we gotta be able to support the structure with 4x4s, so we can take the porch out from under it.
Okay.
So basically, I'm assuming, Mr. Carmen, that you wouldn't have any problem with this granting this 120 days?
No, not at all. And whatever progress takes place in that 120 days, I'll get pictures before we discuss it again.
Okay.
To show you the current, where we're at that time. Plus, I can also update you as we have in previous condemnations, if you'd like.
Yeah.
30 days, but it moves awful slow when it's cold and raining. So there's not a lot you can do outside other than take stuff off or get rid of stuff that's deteriorated, so.
I'd appreciate the update. That'd be good.
And we
Thank you.
still gotta maintain that it's, that it's intact so no one can get inside.
Exactly.
That's key, when we're under condemnation like this and refurbishing homes, keep them secured so the police department doesn't have issues with people in and out of them too, so.
I'd like to put up a construction fence on the back if I can. Something that orange fence, if that's not a problem.
Perfectly acceptable as long as it's up on the property and not in the right
Yeah,
of way,
it's
sure.
in the property.
Good.
Okay,
So what do we need to do?
no more
Move
questions.
to approve resolution.
We're still in public hearing though, right?
So you can
Were-
take,
were there
you
any
can
other
take
questions?
additional public comment,
Yeah.
see if anybody else is.
Were there any other comments?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Don, appreciate it.
Did you have anything to add, Mr. Corman?
I didn't get to see this. And everything he's listed are most of the issues that I wrote and actually addressed with pictures and then commentary from the original to set the public hearing. So I think that this is a good plan. This will address everything that I wrote up in my evaluation. So I have no problems with it. I hope 4 months, he can do that in 4 months. The weather may just turn and go south on us right now, so. And if it does, we'll evaluate the days. I'll kind of look at that and you have an idea, so when we come back and talk about it, you'll know how many bad days there really were.
We'll close the public comments now. And any further questions?
None here.
I move to approve Resolution 2772 to give the property owner 120 days by law to repair or remove structure at 518 West Fifth.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the resolution. Is there any further questions?
None here.
Is this roll call?
No, it isn't.
No, it's not.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The ayes have it, 4-0.
Before you go on to the next item, I just wanted to point out, and I printed my packet. And
We redid it.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
We
Because I
redid
have the same,
We redid it. So we did catch that one. We did catch that one.
all right.
Mr. Haynes, would you want your list back? Okay. All right, thank you. Okay. Sounds like a
Good
winner.
idea.
Next, Mr. Corman.
Is the property located at 119 East 11th Street. And here are the pictures of the property. They have actually done quite a bit of things in the last couple of days. And the actual owner, Mrs. Dale, is here to speak on her behalf, and then she has a plan. And she also is going to ask you for time to make the repairs to the structure. They in the last 3 or 4 days, they've gotten half of the roof on,
Okay.
and there are several windows in now. And I think they can probably move forward and try to get everything trimmed up and house wrap and get it dried in. But I'll let Mrs. Dale speak on that. Come on up, ma'am, please.
We'll open the public hearing to consider condemnation of property at 119 East 11th Street. Ms. Dale?
As you know, I'm not a I'm not a constructor, so I don't really have papers to pass out and all that stuff. But we have done quite a few work since the house got burned. At first, money-wise was an issue because you have to get rid of all the debris. You have to pay for the dumpster, which is $270, and get the yard in order for it not to be looking, the way it was. So, and inside the house, they had garbage bags in the wall for insulation. So we had to be pulling out all those, and then inside of it is all new structures because all the woods, most of them was rot and there wasn't any good and all that stuff. So if you go inside the building, it's all new 2x4s or, whatever. So we replace everything inside. And the outside, it's winter and it's really cold, and we're trying to do the days that we get that is warm to do it. The roof is on, half of it is shingled, the other half, we started it, but it's getting too cold. So on the weekend here, it's supposed to be like 50-something degrees, and Saturday. So we're planning on trying to get the other half finished. And we have like a couple windows in and doors in and all that stuff. So I am here to just ask for some extra time because, again, money-wise is really a little issue. And to get the shingles and stuff on the outside, we have to order that, and I don't know how long does that take for us to get it. So we're trying to move as fast as we can, and we're trying to do the best that we can. And then, January is tax time coming around, so we have a little bit of extra money and all that to get, whatever we need to be done. So would I really appreciate it if you guys could extend and give me a little bit more time. Because I don't really live anywhere. I live at a trailer, and the trailer is all messed up. So the faster I get this done is the quicker I can get in and have somewhere to stay.
Okay.
So you feel like in 120 days that you guys will have substantial progress made?
In 120 days, yes, we'll try to get the roof and, most of whatever we can get done. I'm not going to tell you that everything is going to be perfect, but I know we'll do the best we can and as much as we can. Because, again, you have days that is really cold and you don't want to get sick. And, some days it's not warm enough because someone was telling me that if it's too cold, you can't do certain stuff and all that stuff. So we just need a little bit more time, but we're trying. We're working on it real hard.
Carmen, do you see adequate progress for my own?
I have in the last 3 weeks. For a long period of time, there wasn't a lot of activity going on, other than the cleanup of the structure. And as Ms. Dale spoke, little background on this house did more or less, was a total loss. It caught fire. On the interior, they have replaced all the charred wood, any wood that has charring on it, which is a requirement that we have for everybody on a fire job. You replace any wood that's charred, floor joists, rafters, wall studs, anything. They've done all that. They got a lot of that done in the beginning. And now they've moved to the exterior and got a roof back, or actually got the framed portion of the roof back up, and half of the roof now has felt and shingles on it. And I was talking to her son, and their help that they have from their family is all that they've had, but there has been substantial effort to get a lot farther than they were in the last 3 weeks. I have seen progress in the last 3 weeks. And her son also now has access, he works for a general contractor and has access to all the tools, ladders, nail guns, the whole 9 yards. So they have a lot more possibility to achieve what she's asking. I would recommend that we address it the same way the commission has on the previous condemnation for public hearings, and do a status check, report to you guys, and come visit it again in the 120 days. That would be staff's recommendation.
I know when initially, right after the fire, there was a bunch of folks there working, and it was moving. It was moving in a good
I
direction.
want to tell you something too. On the roof, I didn't know that they were supposed to use 2x4s. So I went ahead and get 2x4x6, which is more better, firmer and stronger and more expensive. So I bought all 2x6s for the roof
You did good.
instead of 2x4s. So now the roof is more firm, more stronger. And then someone said, "Why you buy 2x6? You're supposed to buy 2x4." I said, "I didn't know, but we used it and it's getting there. It's good."
Yeah, if some bunch of people end up on the roof, you don't want to go through it. And if a lot of snow comes, you don't want that coming through either. So 2x6 is a good idea, I think.
Yes, that's all I have there.
We will be looking at your property, and we will be wanting to see improvement on that. Like I said, I know initially there was a lot of work that went into it, and then it's like the work just stopped. And that's why it's here now.
Right. At one point, we stopped because I was trying to get fundings from organizations. At first, I was frustrated.
Yeah.
And so I was calling a lot of people and trying to get it. But I said, you know something, instead of trying to get it from all these people, why not go out and work and bust your butt and do what you got to do it. So every here and there, odds job, everything I got, everything I could do, I do, and I just buy material, and started to get it together.
I would expect with the weather the way it's supposed to be this weekend, that the roof will be fully on by the end of the weekend.
That'd be a priority to get that roof covered.
We're gonna, that right there is all covered, those parts that is open now is covered. He just doesn't have a picture of it. We have windows in one side and.
It's all completely OSB'd in now.
I think Mr. Carmen has faith in you. We will place the faith through him to you. So we just want to see it continue to move forward.
Right.
And as long as you're making progress, you won't have a problem with this.
Okay.
Okay?
I
And I know you have weather to work with, but like I said, you got to get that thing covered, because if it rains, and they started talking about rain this weekend, possibly a 1/10 of an inch, which shouldn't be much, see what we can do to help to get that done, and you might even find some volunteer help out there.
Well, I try, but
By
I
being
can't.
here
I just
tonight,
can't-
you might find it.
Okay.
Okay.
Because I try, ask a lot of people. I went to the I went all over.
There were some folks asking me
called
for
a
volunteer
company.
work. And
I
I might
had a
just,
company that was gonna come and build a house from scratch for me. But then when I told them I was in Junction City, they said no, they only do Ogden, Wamego, and Manhattan and all that stuff. Yeah, they said they was gonna come in and, bring everything, but then when they asked me where I'm staying at, they said, unfortunately, they don't do Junction City.
was that the Habitat?
I think so, yeah, I think that was,
Okay. Well, thank you. I don't have anything else.
Thank you for coming, appreciate it.
Was there any other public comment? Then we'll close the public comment section. Mr. Carmen, do you have anything else for us?
No, sir. Do you have any questions for me, Mayor?
You've already stated that you're happy with the progress and made your recommendation.
As long as we continue at the rate that they've moved in the last couple of weeks, we'll get quite a bit done.
Good.
I'm sure the weather's gonna hinder quite a bit too.
I move to approve Resolution 2772 to give the property owner 120 days by law to repair or remove the structure at
19 East 11th.
119 East 11th Street.
That was Resolution 2773, correct?
It's actually 2773. That's the one that didn't get corrected. How'd you get 2773?
Next one.
No, both of them came up as 2772.
Oh,
That was the one I
No,
reported.
that's because you downloaded it before they were
it's corrected now.
Okay.
printed now.
Okay.
That's 2773.
All right, I'll restate that then. Or do I need to?
We have a motion for
Yeah, you can stand
2773.
good, yeah.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second for approval of Resolution 2773. Is there any further discussion?
None here.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. The ayes have it, 4-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, ma'am.
Next, we have special presentations. It'll be the presentation with the update on the water and wastewater system.
Yes, Mayor and City Commissioners. What you have here this evening, as you'll recall, back in July of this year, when the engineering contracts were approved for the Phase 1 improvements at the 3 treatment facilities, the Commission had requested that periodically we would come back and update the City Commission on the status of these projects. Don Lindman is here from HDR Engineering. He's the Senior Project Manager overseeing these projects on behalf of HDR Engineering. We are at a milestone right now on these projects where we have just exceeded as far as the 30% design portion of these projects, where what we're in the process of doing is finalizing. It's basically the basis design portion that indeed we would forward on to KDHE for hopefully their approval as far as on the basis of design for these projects, so that we can then move forward into a more detailed portion as far as of the projects. In your packet you have, and you've seen this before, but we gave it to you again, is the cost or related items on page 59 and 60 for both the water plant and the 2 treatment plants. You also have the preliminary schedule, and I say preliminary because there is some room there that we'll be able to, in talking with Don, be able to expedite these projects after the first of the year through the design phase. So it may appear that we're a little bit behind schedule on this. I'll have Don share with you a little bit more detail of all what's been going on with not only these treatment plant projects, but also we've got some infrastructure projects that we're working on as well. So with that, I'll turn it over to Don and have him update you of where we're at with these projects.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the commission. Maybe I should first start out with what Greg said. Greg did a very good summary. We were here back in July talking about these projects, what was going to be going on, and Greg referenced the project list that is in the item itself. That list is part of the Phase 1 projects and the capital improvement plan that was identified for the water and the wastewater treatment plants for the city. That capital improvement plan project list that you see in there was incorporated into the financial business plan. And this is the first major projects for the water treatment plant and the 2 wastewater treatment plants. As Greg mentioned, we are at the first deliverable. We've got the draft basis of design memorandums, and I've got a couple of copies of them here for both the wastewater treatment plants and the water treatment plants. And these are critical because they identify all the key items that we're going to improve on the wastewater and the water treatment plants. And they identify what we're going to do for equipment, what's going to be replaced, how we're going to replace it. And then from this point forward, we will go on to the 60% and the 90% and finally the bid documents. And as Greg mentioned in the timeline, we're about 1 month behind with these documents getting into the city, but we have time within the schedule to still make that up and be at our June bid time as we identified in that preliminary schedule itself. What we're doing with these 30% design documents, when we've got them from preliminary to the final design, we've got all the reviews from the city staff on them, and we've cleaned them up. They will be submitted with that preliminary engineering report that we did for both the water treatment plant and the 2 wastewater treatment plants. And those will be used then to work with KDHE to obtain the low interest revolving fund loans from them for these 2 projects when they go into construction. So with that, we'll be going in and taking a look at those things. Some of the things that we're currently working on were some of the immediate needs projects. Those will all be coming to completion by the end of this year. If you remember, prior to this, we had some main infrastructure projects. I believe 4 of those are done. 2 of those we're trying to close up, and so all those will be completed. Those were immediate needs at the wastewater treatment plants that needed to be improved. We had a couple items in the construction that weren't quite completing. We're working with the vendors to get those completed. We've got pumps coming in later this month that are going to be installed at the Southwest Wastewater Treatment Plant, and all that work should be buttoned up by the first of the year. So those major infrastructure projects that Greg referred to will be done. And then by June of next year, we'll plan on bidding these documents for both the water and the wastewater treatment plants, and then going into construction at the end of summer next year. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I'm actually good with what you presented so far because you kept us up to date.
Okay. We'll be back again probably most likely at the 60% design submittal and get you up to speed with where we are on those as well.
So you're like about 30 days behind at this point?
We're about 30 days behind, yes, sir.
Cold weather?
Nope. 30 days behind. Greg kind of stole my thunder. I wanted to be the one to say that and let you know that we were going to catch up, but he got there before I did, so.
Good update.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda, new business, consideration and adoption of 2015 water and sewer rate increases, the ordinance G 1163.
Yes, Mayor and City Commission. I would like to point out on this item is Katie Logan, the city attorney, through Tyler Fickens, noted as far as that there actually are 2 ordinances that we'll be looking to adopt this evening. One is G 1163 and the other is G 1164. We split the water and wastewater out, as well as the entire section that is, not all the section is being recommended to be adopted or amended, excuse me. We're basically just changing the rate numbers, that being the base rate numbers within those, both the water system and the wastewater system fees. But we're looking to readopt the entire section again, per, I guess, our requirements of our city code. So you have copies of those on your desk this evening. The numbers that we indicated as far as that were in the original agenda packet have not changed. They're still the same. What you've got now is the entire section. So the recommendation is to repeal the section that is there now and adopt that entire new section as you have it in the
That was
ordinance.
the old,
There should be a marked version.
There's a marked version on there.
You do have this one here.
I put it on your desk.
This is a marked version of 1164.
64, we need 63.
Do not have it, Commissioner McAllister. I can give you my copy here.
Be Commissioner asking.
I don't think he knows.
Excuse me. You'll see it marked there.
Look an awful lot alike, and I
Right.
can understand.
I was looking at the sign and
Said the wrong thing.
basically what you want to look there is where it's in bold and where it's struck out. Where it's in bold is the proposed rate, and where it's struck is the existing rate that we have currently in the city code.
I appreciate that.
So essentially what you have before you is these rate recommendations. As you recall, we brought before you in June of 2014 a financial business plan for both the water and wastewater systems. Those were developed through the completion as far as of this financial business plan. The development of the financial business plan As you recall, the basis of it was the analysis and preliminary engineering reports that were done by HDR Engineering over the course of about a year. We used that as a means to be able to structure this financial business plan. The financial business plan lays out for the city our rate adjustments, or in this case it will be a rate increase for the next 10 years. This happens to be the second rate adjustment during that financial business plan adjustment. It is the recommendation to adjust the rates for the 2015 program. And both the water and wastewater rates are being recommended to be increased by 6.5%. That is consistent, again, with the financial business plan. There are tables that we had shared with you previously that outlined that, showing indeed that the intent here is to start generating revenue within these two funds. We have some cash on hand to continue as far as with the design work that HDR Engineering is working on right now. The intent with these adjustments incrementally over time is to be able to allow us to pay for, be it through the state revolving loan program, if indeed that is the lowest rate program, and we're going to try to be aggressive on that end. I've talked with Mrs. Beatty on this. Right now that appears as though it may be the best plan, but if we find indeed that we can get a lower interest rate and we can keep that cost down, we may come before you with another financing mechanism to be able to spread our cost over that 20-year period, which is what the state revolving loan program is for, to be able to give us really the best rate that we can as far as with the monies that we have available. To clarify the way that this program really is working, again, we have a 10-year financial business plan that we're accumulating money both in the water and wastewater fund to do various improvements, and we outline those improvements to you. There's roughly around $45 million of improvements that will be taking place at not only the 3 treatment plants. We have improvements that we're going to be looking at undertaking regarding the water distribution system and also the sanitary collection system during this time frame. The bulk of the work is intended to start at the 3 treatment plants beginning in July of 2015. Majority of that work would be completed on or about the end of 2017. At that point in time, should we use the state revolving loan program, we would then start looking at our loan payments to make good on the monies that we would borrow from the state to be able to finance as far as the construction of these projects. The intent with the rate adjustments is to start building those monies into each of those funds so that we can make the proper payments over the life of the loan, which in this case, if it was the state revolving loan program, it would be for a 20-year period, and we would basically be having those monies available in the funds to be able to adequately address as far as the yearly payments, so to speak, as far as on those. So this is an item that you've seen before. It's one that what we're looking to do is make sure that the rates get adopted as far as, or before the beginning of January 1, 2015, which is what staff is recommending as far as that you approve this evening. So with that, I'd be happy to try to answer any questions you may have. I'm not sure I can touch on all the details on the financial business plan that Rafa Tellis had completed back in June, but I definitely will try to do that.
I thought we approved a rate increase back there at that time, which
The
I
first
thought was
one.
supposed to go towards this, and so
You did.
now we're needing to do it again.
And
This is
every
our
year.
annual glide path that we hit 1st of January every year. It has an increase on that Raffatellis
You did one back in July, which,
business plan.
the one in July was to start the program with the understanding that at
Right,
January 1 of every year, you would have another one.
Maybe that's the part that's slipping me.
Yeah. So well, as with any, since this is a very large financial plan, you have to have gather the money to make the bond payments.
I understand all that.
Yeah.
It's somewhere, and I'm going to have to go back and read my notes and stuff, but for some reason I didn't think that next increase was coming this quick.
You are correct, Commissioner asked us, is that we did adopt as far as a rate adjustment effective July 1 of this year. That was brought before you in June. And that was the first of, I want to say, 10 adjustments that have been identified in this financial business plan. The first adjustment would be for a period of 6 months, and then henceforward, we'll be bringing before you in December the adoption of an annual rate adjustment for both the water and wastewater. These rate increases vary anywhere from 3% all the way up to 6.5%. The increases that you adopted in June were 6.5% for the water utility and 5.5% for the wastewater utility. Based on the analysis that's been completed, we basically have a 10-year outline. I guess what I would like to preface on this is a forecast.
I remember all that, but
Okay.
where my problem, I guess, is that I guess the time, yeah, for some reason I was thinking there was a longer period before that time period kicked in.
The premise.
And then I knew at some point there was an annual, but I thought you did this, and then I was thinking that there was a longer period of time before that increase, and that's what I'm questioning, and I'm hearing
Sure.
from the rest of you.
The premise was to ratchet it up slowly rather than hit it at 12% all at once.
Well, yeah, and I remember we went over that because that was another one of those documents that took up a whole lot of my time reading it, trying to get that, because I had some concern. I think I even addressed some of my concern then about the increase. But I was thinking you did the one, which I understood, but for some reason in my mind, and maybe I'm getting that confused with some other issues that we dealt with, but that there was a longer period of time before because I remember there was the whole schedule was laid out there. So I guess that's my.
Well, you are getting older.
Yeah, that is true. So, but
Mayor,
time is just going faster for me,
But,
apparently.
and this, we have thrown a lot of information at you in the last year to try to address some of these ongoing long-term issues that have been, I don't want to say totally ignored, but certainly
They have been, but
sustained.
we're no different than a lot of cities
Yes.
who have just ignored a lot of stuff. And
Yeah.
if you look across
It
the
catches up.
country, all the issues of infrastructure is needing to be dealt with, and and now it's just coming up. It's
Yeah.
that you've got to you've got to deal with it, but it's
Topeka announced that they're going to do a 5.5% to 6% increase for the next 5 years in a row.
Yeah.
To start their program, with the understanding that in 5 years they'll probably be back for the same. So it is not uncommon now to see these kinds of increases because you can't keep ignoring the infrastructure problems.
Mayor,
and that's the sad part that's happening to all the taxpayers
Yes.
in all communities, and I guess it's how you try to deal with it. And I know a lot of communities. I've been talking to some folks. They aren't even beginning to look at these issues, and I guess theirs is going to be reactive of when they all of a sudden have a bridge fall down, or you have certain your whole sewer plant just collapses because you haven't done anything. But then all of a sudden you have this major expense that's going to drop onto you, as opposed to trying to develop some plan. It's just I want time to move slower.
You would like that. We all would.
Yeah, I have to agree with Mr. Stewart. It just seems like, and I understand why we need to do some of this, but I don't know, it just seems like we're talking about too many increases on too many different things this evening, and that's kind of irritating to me.
It is for staff as well, because this has been ignored for 20 to 30 years too long.
Mayor, I'd like to point something out to the public. I think the commission is aware of it. I do know that some of the city staff are aware of this. These rates that we are looking to pass. We've passed an adjustment in 2014 in June. We're looking to pass hopefully one this evening. Subsequent years, we'll be back before you to look to increase the rates again. One item that I would really like all to be aware of is that this rate analysis is a forecast. And should our projects, and we believe they will, because I think we're going to have excellent design in the projects and specifications and plans and alike from HDR, is that hopeful that these projects come in under engineers' estimates under, the market is very competitive, and we've got contractors that are hungry for the work. There isn't a lot of work out there, and that may drive the substantial projects that we're talking about at these 3 treatment plants down from what the costs we're looking at. Now, what does that mean to the overall financial picture? What it means, and we have this financial plan developed in this fashion through Raffatellis so that we can go in, and as the numbers come in for that, and they do come in, say, less than what we have estimated, these rates then can be adjusted downward. So what you have before you in this financial business plan is a worst-case scenario.
I guess
okay?
that's what I want to see
So-
have happen at some point, because those conversations always take place, but then, all communities in that state, but then all of a sudden you shift those monies to somewhere else. If at some point these costs do come at a lower rate, I think, and I guess I would put that on to city staff to make sure that we know that and we make this adjustments downward to benefit the public as soon as possible, as opposed to figuring out some other way to utilize those funds.
Well, when those
For another
those
project.
bids are awarded, HDR will have an engineering estimate, and then with each project, and you'll get before we award them, you'll know what the engineering estimate versus what the contractor bid is that you're accepting. And so as those are shown to be downward, and we show that significantly enough across enough of the projects, and that means instead of having a 4%, 4.5% rate increase, we could have maybe a 4% or a 3.5% rate increase.
And that surely is staff's intent with this process. That's why indeed we structured the plan as we did, in the sense that it's a 10-year plan. The projects themselves, the majority of them are going to be complete here in the next 2 to 3 years, and once those are completed, we do have a number of infrastructure, be it the water distribution and sanitary collection items that we're going to be looking to work on. Those are nowhere near of the similar costs that we're looking at on these treatment facilities. So our intent is to truly monitor that, and if there's a means that we can drive that rate down, I think we owe it to our customers to be able to do that. So I just wanted to clarify that point.
And that was my understanding. Was that instead of just having one flat big raise in the front, we're going to go a little bit at a time so we can raise it as we need to.
Correct. Basically, what we're doing is we're building capital into those funds to be able to offset as far as those loan payments that we know we're going to need when those projects get completed.
And to borrow as little as amount of money as possible.
Correct.
I understand that, but for some reason, this old brain still thought there was a longer time period after that initial one, so.
Merry
I
Christmas.
apologize to the rest of you guys for.
Oh, no,
sending you out
no,
to-
you're good.
Time flies when you're having fun.
Yeah, and paying taxes. One thing that would have helped on this, and I'm not trying to ping you on this, but I'm just let you know, simple process, simple chart. I like the bar chart. Show me where my revenue is and show me how much we're short of, because that was the best chart of the evening, and I appreciate that. I know you got your tab there for a PowerPoint Ranger, so that was a pretty good slide. We worked on the color a little bit, but I don't know how much I'm taking in. I know how much my projects are gonna cost. The one thing we will not get, our city for sure, is we won't get any more bonds. And we need to find a way to pay for essential services. Unless we live way out in the country, we draw our water from a well, and we have our own sewer system, we're gonna have to pay for these things. And as some of us know, on Thanksgiving or around Thanksgiving, we had a water line break somewhere, because I know my water pressure went off just about completely. So we're getting services, and we have these services costs. We've neglected to put attention to them, but it's here, and we're getting an excellent evaluation on how we're going to have to go about fixing this. It's not something that we're trying to charge everyone for, but it's something that is essential. And again, no means two things. No means need options. So when we come forward with something and you tell me no, we need to come up with an option, because us 5 brains up here work pretty good, and the city staff of 100 plus, they work pretty good too. But if you see something that we don't, bring it forward to us. But right now, we have to have this. I don't like the increase, because I'm thinking like Cecil, I got a couple dollars over here, I got $1.20, $1.70 over here. But if it's for essential things that we have to have, that's part of living in a municipality where you have to have these things in a city. And again, that bar chart would tell me when we're on target or when we're off. And maybe it's something that I like. If you can make it for me, I'll be happy with it because I can track it at a glance. I'm like, Cecil, show me something.
We'll copy the two
Right.
tables that are referenced in that, and we should have included those again for your reference, and we'll do that the next time around.
Because it shows at a glance whether I'm short or whether I'm over.
Right.
And if I'm over, we can make adjustments by just looking at that.
Right, and it surely does show where the revenue, you'll see how the revenue stream is building.
Exactly.
And it's very concise as far as within that financial report. So we'll make sure that that information is available.
And the last thing we want to do is borrow money to fix this, so we can do it upfront. Again, back in 2010, we took a quarter more, I think, per water bill, and we did that for an amount to raise. We did it for a couple months, and then it went away. And I thought we could apply that to other things, but when I was running for city commissioner, that's when someone told me, I think Cheryl told me, says, yeah, we did that for a specific item, and that was the only time we could do that.
Oh, during the crisis management.
That was it.
Yeah, that's what you're talking about.
That's right, in 2010, early
2010.
2011.
Commissioner Sands, I'll have to disagree with you on one point, and that's on our ability to purchase bonds. I think we're probably in a better position than the state is to purchase.
No doubt.
I read that too today. That's, tell the truth. Show me the dollars. Thank you. Thanks, Rick. So this thing here, we have to go forward with, we need to make a decision on, correct?
Yes, what is the will of the commission?
The will says we gotta have city services. And we're gonna look for this every January, not January, June, July.
Well,
January,
you'll
June.
see it in December of every year, effective January 1 of each year, for the next 9 years.
My understanding is these are both a roll call vote,
Yes.
because they are
Yes,
an
for
ordinance,
each-
and we actually, we
each
have before you is an ordinance, G1163, which is for the water, and then G1164, which is for the sewer rate
And you
increases.
should take them up separately.
Yes.
Right, so I just want to clarify that.
So is there any further discussion on ordinance G 1163?
Yeah, I think my page 58 went blank.
It was 64.
I do remember we had, and I remember reading some extensive amount of documents on this and understanding, but I'm still,
In
I still
what is
have,
on line was a combined
frame,
one,
but
and,
that's no big deal.
our, yes, there is.
Mr. Stewart? In the original agenda, they were written up in the same document,
Yes.
and we realized
But
that we had to separate them out into two different documents.
Because
That-
they're in
that-
different chapters.
So it was rewritten as 1163 to 1164.
But
Right, they're in the
provisions-
agenda packet is on page 65 and 66 is where the ordinance portion is.
Yes.
And what you have before you are two separate documents. The
Yes.
rates are the same. It's just that we have them now as a separate water ordinance and as a separate sewer ordinance.
Okay, I move to approve the adoption of wastewater, or the water ordinance 11G63,
G11.
G1160.
G1163, water rate increase as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve ordinance number G 1163. Is there any further discussion?
None here.
Mr.
Roll
Ficken?
call. Commissioner Aska,
yes.
Mayor Ryan,
Yes.
Commissioner McAllister.
Yes.
Commissioner Sands.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0.
Thank you.
Next, we need to deal with ordinance number G 1164.
Correct.
Mr.
In the same
McCaffrey?
manner. This one is basically the counterpart as far as to the water rate increases, and this is for the sewer rate increases. Again, we're looking at a 6.5% increase on the sanitary sewer rate.
Which will be raising from $25.50 a month to $28.65 a month.
Correct, for the base rate.
Right. And plus $2.13 per every 100 foot over 200 cubic feet.
Correct.
Yes.
I'll move to approve ordinance G 1164.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve ordinance G 1164. Is there any further discussion?
I look forward to seeing these coming in way under bid.
That would be nice.
Mr. Sampson, do you have any discussion?
No.
Mr. Ficken?
Do a roll call vote. Commissioner Aska?
Yes.
Mayor Ryan?
Yes.
Commissioner McAllister?
Yes.
Commissioner Sands?
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda will be consideration and approval of a contract award for emergency blending, tank cleaning at the East Wastewater Treatment Plant.
Yes, Mayor and City Commissioners, as you recall, we came before you back in September 16th of 2014, primarily as far as to waive the formal bid process for this work that was outlined. Essentially, what we're looking to do is move forward as far as with an award of a contract in cleaning of the blending tank at the East Wastewater Treatment Plant. This tank is used in the process for the biosolids generation as far as at this treatment facility. We engaged the services of HDR Engineering to help facilitate in this. As you recall, when we presented it to you in September, we had received quotes through Viola Water and staff, and these quotes really were all over the board. They did not really address as far as the regulatory requirements of proper disposal. They were not consistent in their means as far as of cleaning, as far as in leaving the tank in a satisfactory condition, as well as addressing some of the concerns that had been flagged to us by Kate HE in removing as far as the biosolids material. HDR did direct solicit as far as the various companies. You'll see that in your report, that they outlined as far as various recipients that they had direct solicited. Unfortunately, we only received one bid. However, in evaluating this bid in relation to the actual work that was being requested to be undertaken, we did provide you a complete copy of the proposal that they submitted in to us. We felt indeed that the cost as far as was a good cost for this type of work, given the circumstances. Don Lindman is here this evening to be able to try to answer any questions in more detail, because he was directly, along with one of his staff engineers, involved in this process. Should the commission approve this contract, and by the way, the low recipient that we had received, and they actually bid on this originally, is my understanding as well, is although it indicates Viola ES Industrial Systems, it's a separate entity of the, I want to call it, entire parent company of Viola Water, who operates and maintains our treatment facilities. And you'll see as far as the reasons of the other individuals for unfortunately not looking to respond as far as to, I call it the detail. And it wasn't, as you can see, it wasn't that in-depth. I think it was more looking for, where is your material going to be disposed of? How are you going to properly dispose of them? And when we saw indeed that they were not able to truly give us that direction, it made them almost a non-responsive bidder, because indeed we're responsible for that material until, indeed, I guess I say from cradle to grave, until it's properly disposed of. Should you approve as far as this contract as noted in the report, it's anticipated this work be completed before the end of the year. And with that, Don, you may want to say something further, or if you have any further questions regarding the specifics on this, I think either Don or myself would be able to try to answer those.
I guess I would assume by the list of folks that you sent stuff out to, that's pretty much it in this area, that
Yes, that's correct. We sent the information out to the original 3 people that had responded, and that ranged from anywhere from $40,000 to $100,000. And as Greg indicated, in those initial ones, which is why we came back in September to get that so we could get this done, they did not identify where they were going to dispose of it. It was simply, we'll clean it out and get rid of the material. And one of the bidders even said, when we called them up and said, hey, well, I'm giving you my old one. And we're like, well, that's non-responsive. So that's the whole reason we came to this point right now, to make sure that we had that covered. We detailed more specifics on what we wanted done with the material. And the proposal we got was responsive, and the others, one of them even referred us to the old one and said, that's my proposal, and that was non-responsive. And I guess I'd say a little bit more than Greg said. They're almost non-responsive when they say they don't dispose of it and what they're going to do. I will say they're positively non-responsive, because that was one of the key points that led us to this point.
I just thought of a couple minor things I'd like to note is, although we're looking to clean this blending tank, this particular process is going to be retrofitted as part of the Phase 1 project at this treatment plant. So that is in the process of being redesigned, and we will have a different type process going on there. The reason that this is before you is it's very critical to have this as part of the treatment process, and we were not able to complete the design, the entire detailed design, get these reworks done on this process, and go out for a formal bid. And that's why this is before you, in the sense of saying it's an emergency means to be able to get this cleaned so that we can continue to use this process as part of the plant operation. So I think it's important that you're aware of that, as well as the public, as far as on this process. The other thing I'd like to point out is one of the items that we've had discussions, and we are finalizing that service authorization with HDR, and it was known to them when they first were engaged with the city, is as we move forward with all of these improvements at these facilities, one of the things we wanted them to do was look at the existing Veola water contract as it relates to treatment operations. And as we all know, that contract, we feel that there's some items that could be adjusted, both give and take between the city and Veola Water. And before we get these, call it, improvements in place, I fully anticipate that contract will be opened up again, modified, brought before you, and recommended as far as for readoption, as far as in that sense. And I think something like this, at least in our mind, we're viewing that in the future we should be looking at something like this to be included as part of a O&M process of the operation of that particular plant. And unfortunately, when you look at the contract that is as it is today and what's been going on there, it's a very gray area. So I just wanted you to be aware of those 2 points.
Is this process also going to make the that area out there a little bit less smelly?
No, it will not. There are some improvements that are being undertaken as part of the Phase 1 at this facility. I think Don can share a little bit more in detail with those.
Yeah, what this is going to do is clean out the tank so they have the full availability for solids at the plant itself. Right now, they're running near the limit, and if they got an inrush of too much, they might exceed that and go into a violation. So what's going to happen, though, as the next phase on those Phase 1s that are currently under design and that we have in our basis of design report, there is a component at that plant that's going to be cleaned up. That's in their headworks. The headworks is where all the raw sewage comes in, and after it's been out in the system, particularly in the summer, it gets hot, it gets smelly. We're doing a number of cleanup items there and putting odor control on the headworks. Now, that's not going to take all of it out there. You're still going to smell some of that earthy smell as you drive by out there, but it's going to help with what we call some of the fugitive odors out there. It'll help capture some of those before it gets into the treatment plant process, and so we'll reduce it some. But going into the more odor control systems, those would go into the Phase 2 type of processes. Right now, Phase 1 was that we got to get this done, if you recall.
And what's the time limit we're looking at? Is this like a monthly deal that has to be cleaned out before it reaches?
No, this is something that, as Greg mentioned, in the annual O&M, you'll have a clean out. It won't be as much because there won't be as much solids build up in it.
Okay.
And that's part of what we're looking at to get into the contract when we get into there and identify those things that need to be done on an annual basis. Of course, that costs money as well. So we have to to go in and take a look at all those things and make sure that we've got, when we get the new plant items up and running, they're being maintained properly so that we don't run into this in the future.
And in the future, we'll still have to haul this to Johnson County?
Yeah, they'll still be, unless you make improvements to the treatment plant and get it into a class 1, where it isn't right now, and that's where you'd have to go to digestion, and that takes a whole lot more. So typically you'll have to haul it off, but it won't be so much because you're doing it periodically.
And not be at a critical level anymore.
And not be at a critical
That's the
level.
key
That is
point here.
correct.
Because the real key point here is that we're at a critical level that needs, and it needs to be taken care of, which it had not been in the past on an annual basis. So now we're always at critical point and it's an emergency rather than
Right.
if it had been taken care of on an annual basis, originally we wouldn't be here.
And as you know, when you're working with your car, routine maintenance is a lot less expensive than waiting until the critical moment when you got to replace that transmission because it's not going to work anymore. So,
Like when your septic tank backs up, it's too late to do maintenance.
Correct.
Yeah.
yes.
The Rid-X will not work.
Just kind of where we're at on this.
Yes.
That's the analogy that this is. Don, I wanted to ask you a question.
Yes, sir.
Relative to the Phase 1 project originally, was this work bid at that time, engineer estimate at that time?
No, this work is actually just cleaning the tank. In our estimate was rehabilitating the tank to revise the process that Greg had in there. So if we didn't get this done now, then we'd have to clean it at the time it was bid. But we don't have that originally in there. We need to get it done now because we have to worry about the regulations and getting it done, so we don't run into it when we're getting there.
Is this a fair and reasonable bid?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All I have.
Any further questions?
None here. I move to approve the award of contract to Viola ES Industrial Systems of Liberty, Missouri for an amount not to exceed $66,910.24 as presented.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for approval. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. The ayes have it, 4-0.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda will be consideration and adoption of ordinance amendment for amending the school zone location and times for USD 475 Early Childhood School on Westwood Boulevard, Title III Traffic Code, Chapter 310, Speed Regulations.
Yes, Mayor and City Commission, we've been approached by the school district to look at as far as creating a new school zone for their early childhood center that's located on Westwood Boulevard over near Elmdale Avenue, as far as on north, would be the north portion of the city. And in order to establish this, there are requirements within the Uniform Traffic Control Manual. There's also the need to, if it is warranted for this type of traffic control, to receive concurrence from the police chief. We've done that. We've gone through the review of the Uniform Traffic Control Manual. It is deemed as far as that it should be properly signed for a school zone. What we included in your packet on page 94 is a drawing to sort of show you what indeed actually is going to take place in that area. There is an existing zone that is immediately to the south of this school center. We're basically looking to extend it further north along Westwood Boulevard, and that's outlined as far as in your packet of basically removing as far as a couple of signs that are out there now, reinstalling some new signs. These signs would establish that as a school zone with particular time frames for that school zone, very similar to what we have throughout the rest of the community. Bill Clark, the Director of Operations for the school district, is here this evening if you should have any questions regarding the request that was made to the city. As you look at the ordinance amendment, I wanted to point out, as you scroll through that, and it begins, the portion that we're looking to amend is on page 90 of your packet. I wanted to point out one of the items we did do when this request came before us is we did a thorough review of all of the school zones to make sure that we had all of the information correct in the ordinance, as well as the information correct out in the field, because it was brought to our attention when we last brought to you a request to modify these, that there was a error in one of the schools and the limits as far as of where those signages were placed. So what you have on page 90 is to correct a typo of a particular street that is out there now. It's Downton Street, so there, we've corrected that typo. And then if you go on to page 90, you'll see the ordinance provisions, which when the signs go in and the ordinance becomes adopted, it allows then indeed the enforcement action by the police department as well as the city prosecutor for this particular school zone. We've included that on page 92 of that school zone as far as limits as far as for this particular school site. So we did note as far as to you, there is a minor cost related to this, to be able to remove and replace some existing signs, as well as install the 2 new signs that would be part of this further as far as just north of that school center. And with that, I'd be happy to maybe try to answer questions you may have, or if you have questions of Mr. Clark.
2 questions. One question, one comment. Comment is the same comment as I made previously. The school should be responsible for the payment of those signs, in my opinion, although I understand that it's traffic and laws and enforcement and all that. I got that. I just wanted to make sure that my stance was still the same. How long has the Early Childhood Center been there as a school?
Good evening, Commissioners. Good to see you again, Mayor.
How are you, Bill?
The Early Childhood Center actually just established this year. Previously, it was the Head Start program. Head Start was discontinued as a partner with Gary County Schools, and so ECC, as we refer to it, just stood up this year. When that did, we went out and did an assessment of the area, took a look. There's about 300 kids that attend that school there. And as we took a look at the area, made the assessment that it would be prudent to talk with the city about extending the school zone through that area. Additionally, if you look on your map, we'll say to the north or to the left, that's also the Boys and Girls Club. So in the afternoon, you have more elderly children, we'll call them, walking down there to participate in activities as well.
And there has been no issues or accidents, and there are sidewalks there now?
There have been no issues or accidents. There have been numerous discussions between staff and parents because of the coming and goings of small children, or 3- and 4-year-olds that attend there. The boulevard itself is lined with trees that are full grown, so it's difficult to see at times, so slowing the traffic down, we believe, is prudent to reduce the risk from a safety perspective.
Do we need to do anything with the trees in the median?
I think we're okay. One of the things that we're taking a look at too is actually the parking lot configuration from a USD 475 perspective inside the area itself.
Okay. All I had, Mayor.
Any further questions?
No, none here.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you, Mr. Clark.
Okay, I move to approve the adoption of the ordinance amendment, ordinance G 1159, for the amendment of school zone speed limits in the vicinity of early childhood school as presented.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve ordinance G 1159. Is there any further discussion?
None here.
Mr.
Roll
Fickle?
call, Commissioner Aska,
Yes.
Mayor Ryan,
Yes.
Commissioner McAllister,
Yes.
Commissioner Sands.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda will be consideration and adoption of the city stormwater management master plan and rate structure recommendations.
Yes, Mayor and City Commissioners. I put on your tables an 11 by 17 sheet. I'm going to reference back to that as we go through this report. In essence, what you have there is a portion of the City Commission agenda memo. It's been enlarged and we've included what I want to term our 7 action items or policy decisions that we're looking for the City Commission to provide staff guidance as far as on this stormwater management plan. With that, what I'd like to do is just highlight a few items in this report as well as just for the public's information. The development of this plan, as you recall, was really to look at inventorying our entire stormwater system, look at regulatory issues, look at operation and maintenance as far as of our system, look at potential capital needs should they indeed be identified while we evaluated as far as the modeling of this system. One of the primary items that we also wanted to address as part of this stormwater management plan was to try to look at right-sizing our rate structure, or truly look at as far as our rate methodology that we had in place. We had a workshop earlier this evening where we gave you an overview of 2 rate methodologies. We have still, as far as in the audience this evening, Joe File, who's the project manager on behalf of AMAC, Elizabeth Treadway, who is the rate, I want to call it expert guru on behalf of this project team. And also another individual I want to note, because he's done quite a bit of the QA, QC related to this project, is Stephen No, and he is in the very back. He was very instrumental. As you recall, he came to all of us almost a year ago. Actually, it's going to be approaching in March, 2 years ago, as part of the project team with AMAC, and outlined to us one of the critical items that we were after to achieve in this program was the development of a financial business plan. And I can't stress enough about that document, is that is really our guiding tool to be able to implement the plan, maintain the plan, and it shows true, I want to say, seamless as far as of how we're going to finance the particular system. And that's really what this stormwater system that we have within the city truly is. We've got roughly about 52 miles of stormwater, be it pipes, conduits, drains throughout the system. We've got over 3,500 catch basins and manholes that are part of this particular system that have been identified during this inventory. When you look at the plan itself, the key items in there are really an inventory and modeling, identified operation and maintenance needs, permits and regulatory requirements. You see in there a capital improvement, rather extensive capital improvement program. I want to note that just as similar to the engineering reports that you saw well over a year ago, these are very preliminary estimates. There's not been a lot of pen to paper in these. There's not been an awful lot of detailed field investigation, be it geotechnical work. There's not been a lot of work in investigating as far as combining this potentially with other infrastructure improvements, be it potential street improvements, water or wastewater. So surely when you look at these costs, these are standalone costs. If you're able to partner these with other projects, you generally can drive those costs down just because of the economy of scale and getting work done simultaneously. As we noted to you in the workshop and also back to you in July, the recommendation is to go forward with a minimal plus program. The intent of that program is to address our regulatory or permit issues that we have as far as right now and that have been identified. We're looking to implement, we call it a full operation maintenance program. With that, what we're trying to truly do is limit or minimize infrastructure items that are within this storm system from falling into that CIP or capital improvement category. Because as we know, a little bit of prevention now can save us an awful lot of money later on. And that's truly a huge component of this fully operation and maintenance as far as initiative. We also identified as far as a minimal capital improvement program. As you read probably through the report and through the executive summary, you'll see that this document indicates that we should be continuously re-looking at this program, but surely looking at this program in a lot greater detail or even more detail as we get further down and start completing some of these remedial operation and maintenance items. And as you'll see in that the bar chart that you saw earlier, it outlined as far as that, some of these capital items that are going to start tailing off right on or about 2019. And that's really when we should start re-asking ourselves, where do we want to go from here? What's been going on with those CIP items? Are they becoming more critical or not? And have we been able to address through remedial operation maintenance of keeping projects out of that, I want to call it CIP list? Because you'll see that CIP list is very extensive and very expensive, as we note that. The other item that I'd like to note to your attention is when we came to you in July and we also came to you here in August, is we chose basically, I want to term it as an option 3. And that really was sort of a hybrid of the option 2 and option 3 that we originally gave to you. So I really want to call this sort of an option 3B because it doesn't really cover an awful lot of detail with respects to the CIPs, but it truly is trying to get that regulatory and getting that operation and maintenance aspect addressed. As you look at as far as this report, you'll see that some of the things that we're looking for the City Commission to advise or direct us. And that's now where I'm going to call your attention to this 11 by 17 sheet here. We presented to you this evening 2 possible rate options. And you'll see there's a list of, I want to term them questions or items that we're looking to put before the City Commission. And by you answering these questions or giving us guidance, and as you look at this, you'll see that there's a list of 1 through 7 of these. And for example, the first one, consideration and adoption of the stormwater management plan. We are looking for the City Commission through a resolution to adopt this plan very similar to that you adopted the financial business plan and the engineering standards and some other documents that we've brought before you recently. You'll see in italicized there what staff's recommendation is respects to each one of these items. As you go through items number 2 through 7, really what this is steering us towards is you giving us direction on what should we do with respects to our rate structure, our methodology that we have in place, if anything at all, and if we should go down the line of being moving towards a pervious-impervious, what indeed are some of the issues that are still at hand? Mrs. Treadway noted some of those of potentially not charging as far as undeveloped residential properties. Looking at do we move forwards or towards a means where we have a cap type structure? Therefore, noting that if we cap the structure, then surely that sort of eliminates the means of I call it a credit system, because you really are already giving somebody a significant credit. So with that, if we can answer any questions as you go through these, we'll try to do that. I guess the format that we're looking for is, we've outlined it in the suggested motion, is 1, we're looking for the commission to adopt, if you're comfortable with that, is adopting that stormwater management plan. All right. What that will do is allow us now indeed to be able to use that as a formal document as we complete engineering reviews on new and redevelopments that take place in the city, as well as moving forward with some of the operation and maintenance related items that are identified in the plan. And then after that, you'll see that we basically are recommending as far as that the City Commission adopt as far as the staff recommendations, and you don't necessarily have to have these. These are what our recommendations are on each one of these items. Again, preface as you look at the report, our intent is to take this material and then structure as far as a rate methodology along with a final rate, bring that before you at either the next commission meeting or a subsequent commission meeting to be able to get that as far as system in place to be able to finance as far as the many items that we noted in this plan. So with that, I'd be happy to try to answer any questions unless you have anything further to add.
I think what he's asking is you need 1 through 7 answered, so if you want to attack one at a time? Or,
No. You know, this is, to me, kind of ridiculous to expect us to reply to all 7 of these at this point in time, without having a chance to go back and digest what was talked about this evening. So as far as I'm concerned,
So I guess the direction, if that's what you would wish,
And
is
that's
to bring
fine.
this back at the next meeting to answer the 7 questions.
I would say
That's,
so.
that's where I would be.
Yeah, if that's what your desire is. I mean, we just want your guidance. What do you want?
That's where I'm at with it, because, I mean, you know, this, ever since this document is given, you're going through it, and some of the stuff is minor in terms of, it kind of throws you off, and, you know, I don't live and breathe this stuff like these people do. And so
Yeah,
I need
exactly.
to come back and draw my own little charts and stuff and,
Sure.
and evaluate some of this stuff, because, you know, on a couple of these items, I know I have a question, but I'm not sure what question I'm asking, and I need to sort through it for myself in order to halfway talk intelligently about it. You know, when I look at and mainly it's about on the financing, because unless I'm missing something, which I need to, you know, look at this a little harder, I'd like to see what some of the actual dollar impact is. You know, staff has had a chance to even look at specific, you know, you talked about your top 10 people and what if you go this route, what that actual dollars look like. I don't know. And then, but to sit here tonight and say, well, yeah, we're going to adopt this and all under one option, two option, whichever option we want to go with, I don't think that's really fair to us, without us being able to digest this and call upon staff to ask some questions to get a little better detail and clarification as to you know which of these options is the strongest and best for this community. My 2 cents.
So clarification on what you're asking for, it would be your top 10, but in that respect, you would want to know without a cap and with
Well,
a
you know,
cap?
and like I say, yeah,
What they pay
yeah.
now? What they pay now, we know is $1,200. With a cap, it's likely around the 10,000 mark.
Yeah, and the question I might even have after really looking at this is, what if you put a cap at 8,000? Yeah, I don't know, you know,
Okay.
but sit here and listen to it and try to read through some of this stuff myself. And you're right. Earlier, Greg was talking. I'm looking at appendixes and stuff. Maybe that was a waste of time, but I'm trying to figure some of this stuff out. I'm just now beginning to get a little bit of a handle around it, and you know, and even tonight I had to stop for a second. You know, you've got this, and then you all of a sudden now we're back to talking about the sewer and wastewater stuff, which we approved 6 months. You know, we don't live and breathe this, the 5 of us. So, you know, we have to take this stuff a little slower in terms of making sure I'm keeping which issue straight and stuff. You know, and I'm still stuck on. I could have swore we talked about a longer time period after the first rate increase. I knew we were talking about rate increases, but sometimes when you get to talking about some of this stuff, it does get confusing, because, you know, if we want to talk about court systems, I could talk to you all day long and would bore the heck out of all the folks out there. But, you know, so it just takes a bit of absorption. So to be able to sit here and go through and answer these questions and to do, to me, a good job as a commissioner, I don't think that that's fair to us to do tonight.
And we understand that.
Well, I think that we need to further discuss these 7 options amongst us to understand what we're agreeing to or what direction we're going to. This all at once, and there's some of the 7 that are easy in my mind to say. You know, number 1, yeah, I think we need to have a stormwater management plan. But as you drill down into that, there's a lot of impact that, as Commissioner Aska has said, is going to impact our citizens. And so we need to weigh that. We need to take that. The document's a good document, but we need to weigh it collectively instead of singular. And Katie, I'm not sure how we, the commission, sit down and discuss this.
You have to have meetings, special meetings, work sessions. You have to do it in open meeting.
And we can discuss it at a special session in an open meeting.
You can always schedule
At
a
a
special meeting.
sometime.
Yeah, from time to time. It just simply has to be an open meeting. You have to allow the public to attend.
But I think we need to discuss it further instead of just throwing throwing our hat in the ring and saying, okay, sounds good, you guys are the experts. But there's another side of that. There's the community needs also. And we are charged with going with those community needs. So we have to make those decisions informed, and I
Yes.
just don't think we can do it sitting side by side and never discussing it.
Right. And you can, so you could schedule meetings. They have to be open meetings. It's up to you whether you want to allow members of the public to comment at those meetings. But you do need to discuss them in open public meetings. Your discussions about this have to take place in that context. I don't really see anything in this that would justify, an executive session discussion. It doesn't really fall under anything.
Okay.
It's just that sometimes as you interpret some of this stuff, for me, it's interesting to hear somebody particularly like Commissioner McAllister, because he has a lot of experience in this stuff from his previous life, and that's, to me, is somewhat valuable, somewhat.
And the staff will need to know then if at a special meeting, what additional information besides this document that you're asking for, because as far as we know, everything is in here.
Right. Under number 7, I believe from here that the 10,000 cap eliminates 8.5% of the
Yes.
Yes. Billing units.
Yes.
So that 8.5% is spread over everybody else. What is the number of customers that are over the 10,000? I'd be curious as to how
No.
that would be 9.
Yeah.
So we'd be limiting the cost to 9 people. I'd be interested to know what the cost each one of those would be, to know what kind of impact it might have to the business community, whether it might be something that would cause somebody to consider closing their doors and moving away because
Or moving to another county.
Yeah.
Those are things that I would like to know what those 9 corporations have to say about going from $1,200 a year
to
to
$10,000.
$10,000 a year. How does that impact their business? How does that impact being able to stay in this community? And I understand it may be different in another community, and they may not have that particular same restriction on them. And what did they do elsewhere? I think it's a good idea to have a storm management plan. There's no,
I'm all about a plan, because you gotta have something.
yeah,
Guide us
there's
and
no
move
doubt
down
about
the
that.
road.
But when you get down to where the rubber meets the road, raising $1.20 per month for each ERU for each single family developed. That doesn't sound very much. But when you go to the big corporation and you say, we're going to increase you about $8,800 starting in January, how does that impact you? How does that make you feel staying in this community? Or does it make a difference? Is it part of doing business? I don't know. Those are the things that we have to hear. If it wasn't for the big ticket corporations, the 10,000 or whatever the cap may be, I think it's a good plan. I think it's a very good plan to be able to get revenues to fix something that needs to be fixed, to take care of compliance issues that the state requires or EPA requires. I think that's good, but once you get over that threshold, now you're starting to impact businesses in this community that are very important to this community, that we also need to make sure that we keep those businesses here and that we are business friendly. But I don't know how to get over that line in the sand. So those are things that we need to discuss, or I think we need to discuss. I think the larger corporations are the ones that really concern me. The smaller, as that pyramid goes out and gets to the end, I think everybody should pay their fair share so we can maintain our system, our utility. But is that really fair on the top of that pyramid?
Mayor, if I might, and I appreciate what Commissioner Askus is indicating. You know, it's a lot of material. This particular project has been going on since March of 2013, and it is a valuable document. This is a valuable system within our community. Just as having good schools, you want to have good infrastructure, because if you don't have good infrastructure, we all know people are going to leave. You know, good infrastructure attracts, I call it businesses, and we want to continue to be that. I recognize the aspect that when you see this, you go, whoa, you know, this is a huge fee that you're being asked us to consider. I think the way that we approached this as we talked amongst AMAC staff and city staff was, where indeed do we need to go from here, in the sense that we've got this document, we all think it's a good document, to go the next step, which is establishing what we're going to term the financial portion of it, which says, here's how we're going to try to do some of these things. Because in order to do some of these things, it costs X amount. And as you see this, I don't think we're looking to push it on you and say we need it all now. Should you give us any of this guidance, or even answer, and we're open to this. I don't think there's I don't want to say a true time frame, although a little bit there is, because as noted, as AMAC noted earlier, we've got an existing permit. We've got some requirements that we have to meet here in February and get going on, and those are, I like to term those are soft items. We're not talking significant capital improvements, and we're not talking hundreds of thousands of dollars, but there are some things that need to be undertaken, and the 2015 budget reflects this particular, call it expenditures. We're not going to be going forward with that until we truly have the revenue side set in place. I guess what I would like to have, as Mrs. Beatty indicated, is look at this material in more depth, share with us what are those concerns. You shared a couple of those already. You know, the top 10 customers that, you know, what do they pay right now, and what would they pay if we adjusted it? We could give you the top 20 customers and say, you know, here's what their rate is now, and here's what they'll pay if you have a true impervious method, and here's what you'd have if you had a capped. In closing, what I'd like to do is maybe have Steve Noel just share a little bit of thought regarding this stormwater management plan, and then maybe you provide us as far as some direction further on items that you need, maybe on these items here, and surely us.
Let me cut you off right here, because, you know, you guys have been working on this document for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
You guys have been involved in deep conversations, and I used to be involved in those same conversations, so when I had to go before the judges, I could talk it inside and out. This has been dropped on us, and I understand all that, but we still need some time, and the conversation you're having now, it doesn't do me any good. What I'm saying, you guys have been working on this, we just now are getting it, and we're the ones that have to answer to the public. We're the ones that at some point have to be able to have a dialogue with the public. Now, if I was sitting in those meetings all the time with you guys, hey, we'd be done. We could all answer this tonight, but we haven't been in there, so I still have to formulate my thoughts based upon this information. Yeah, the master plan itself, I got no problem with it. It identifies stuff that needs to be done, and earlier we even talked about it. You're right, these things need to be done, addressed before we're like some communities who aren't even taking the aggressive step to even try to put together a plan. So I want to be on top of it. But you know what? It's still, we're talking about generating some revenue. and it's brought up earlier, and you know, we talked about the wastewater, we get a little bit out of that. The trash, we've already done a little bit out of that. We keep nickel and diming people, and I get it, but when I go out and tell somebody, this is why I voted for that, I want to be able to, in my heart, know that I'm giving them good information.
Absolutely.
And being able to explain that this is why I did what I did. I still need to do, because I'm sure when you guys have these conversations, that's why you're professionals and you do what you do. Y'all know this stuff, and y'all banter around 50 million thoughts and things that I probably will never even begin to think about as it relates to this, and I can appreciate that. But I still need to have time to look at some of this, come up with my own thoughts, give some of you folks a call before I start opening my mouth in public and they go, what the heck is he talking about? Because that makes no sense.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
we agree with you.
Right. Just so I could maybe let him say a few words.
Minute and a half. This is a no-cost request, okay? Not asking for money. But I would encourage you to try to address number one as soon as possible. And the reason is, that's not approving any cost rate changes. That's not saying you're going to go build any projects. What that's doing is taking the handcuffs off of the city and their staff to take the model results that we've done that represents your existing consistent condition system out there of all the assets that we collected and we modeled. And it says by adopting that, turns him loose to be able to use that for any redevelopment and development going on in the city. So when I can remember one particular project, I think maybe it was a Walgreens building on a corner or some sort of redevelopment on a corner. They wanted to redirect the storm sewer line. Well, it was undersized. It was in a known flooding area. Well, they didn't know what size to put back in. So the burden was on them to decide, okay, how big does it need to be? Well, what kind of throttle do I need to put on the downstream end in order so I don't shift that flooding downstream? But if the pipes downstream get bigger, all they got to do is take that throttle out and this piece is good. You don't have to redo this. Well, those kind of things, your development community and your redevelopment community are going to be, that's what they're pecking on wanting to use. So the sooner you can just adopt the plan, then that turns your staff loose to use this to help make sure you're not creating problems down the road by something changing today. That's the only thing I wanted to point out.
Thank you for it. And it isn't my intent to want to drag this out because I want to make some decisions. Let's move on to the next headaches and problems that we got to deal with.
Right. But and I just want to throw that out because I know we jumped right to the rate because that's always the most sensitive, as Elizabeth well knows. And
for me, that's what when you start talking about the rate, I don't want to go approve something and then it's like, oh, so if we adopt a waste plan, but it does, it all of a sudden combines together. So by doing that, I don't want to be doing something, committed ourselves in.
Oh, that was not the intent, and that's why you see on the agenda only the resolution for the adoption of the plan. There is no rate ordinance, there's no rate change, we know that we have to further discussion on all these items. So the intent tonight was just to get the plan adopted, that's all. And that's why it's on the on the agenda the way it is.
I wanted to add something that I think will help in your further consideration of all of this. From an open meeting standpoint, it's just that when you get together as a commission and discuss this, you need to do it in an open meeting or a series of open meetings if it's going to take more than one. But on a one-on-one basis or even a two-on-one basis, if any of you had questions, you wanted to meet with staff, and do it on the side, that's just gathering information. That's not deliberating over this. You can't do it with more than 3 of you present. Or if you had, questions you wanted to convey to staff, to convey to the experts, you can do all of those things.
And you can have phone calls with these guys.
Right, which is what I would.
And you can do all
I
of those
understand
things,
that.
but then once you start to, talk amongst yourselves about both items in the plan as well as then, of course, moving on, then you have to do that in an open session.
Okay.
But you can certainly gather information and ask questions.
I'd like to add, I know as you look at that document, there's a lot of engineering stuff in there. And you're right, we have gone over this through HDR engineering, Call Valley Engineering was an instrumental part of this process because of the longevity they have in the community in doing a number of projects throughout the community. So we had an awful lot of dialogue with them as we finalized this item to make sure that everybody is on the same page. And just to reemphasize, we have that on a daily basis, surely on a weekly basis from prospective developers of saying, for example, do I need to provide detention, retention in my area? What is the ultimate size of this storm system? And that is in this master plan through a series of maps, through a series of modeling. And presently what we have done is we've had a couple of projects come across our desk, most recently a grocery store being contemplated off of 77. All we can share with them is we can give you this, however, this plan has not been adopted by the City Commission at this time. So right now, here's the best information we can give you in a draft sense, and you can move in that direction. We fully do not expect the plan itself to change. What we hope will change will be the financial business plan on how we implement the plan itself.
So basically, this document, sections 1 through 5, covers the plan. And then 6, 7, 8 gets more into the financial part of it, correct?
It directs you towards that.
Right. Yeah,
Right.
It doesn't make any decision.
Basically, if you took 6, 7, 8 out of this,
Right.
because that's where, to me, it starts getting kind of, but sections 1 through 5 really talks about the different projects.
Right.
The,
But by adopting it by resolution, you are not adopting a new rate structure. You cannot by adopting this plan. You have to do that through an ordinance.
okay.
So just for clarification, section 1 is essentially an introduction. Sections 2 through 5 are basically those items that address 2, the existing system, 3, regulatory, 4, O&M, and 5, CIP. Those are essentially the nuts and bolts of the master plan. 6 is the program recommendation, minimal, moderate. We talked about all those programs. So 6 is the program recommendation. 7 and 8 deal with the rate and the rate structure. So you could include 6, 7, and 8 as the financial business plan if you want to include the program with it, or if you wanted to say just the rate, then that's strictly 7 and 8. So just a little bit of clarification.
But your key words is recommendations. They are only recommendations at this point when you adopt the plan. It is not a final. We can't even set a final rate until we get more further guidance from you.
And that's what, to me, the way some of this is coming out is that we're all sitting talking about the whole rate and picking an option and rolling with that, and that's not what I'm prepared to do. I
We
am
didn't think
prepared to go with the master plan because that looks good.
We didn't think you'd be ready tonight. We're just posing the questions so that you understand what we need answered. Because otherwise it would have been fully up in the air, and that's our guidance back to you. This is what we need from you so that we can adopt a rate structure. And so the rate structure comes later.
I think what Cheryl's noting is these are the items we need direction on. If you need additional information, by all means, let us know. We'll try to formulate that and get that back to you so that you can better understand, I guess, maybe the document or be able to make a better informed decision on the items we're putting before you. Because in order for us to go forward in development of a financial structure, any kind of modification on the rate, any kind of new rate, we're really looking for answers to these and guidance on these. And I understand that when you look at those questions, there's a lot to look at, in depth or detail. If you find that you got questions, please get them to Cheryl, and we'll try to get them formulated, and surely look to try to schedule in the near future here some workshops as far as to be able to deliberate these and come to some kind of resolution.
Here's my comment, and I've listened to quite a bit this evening. We've already come forward, and I'm kind of glad it was done in the order that it was. It was given up front. The work session was good. It laid a lot of information out. This is what we need to do. This is some of the ideas that we should go to, the paths that we should take. Then we went into two other things that are water and wastewater. We've already asked a single-family residence to increase their rate about $6.36 roughly, just for those two items there. We're also going to come back and we're looking at the stormwater. And a single-family residence, we're looking at a 15% increase, something that we can deal with. As we continue to go down, and I look at the bottom of that chart, and it says, we said 10, I see 14 that are in that million plus or above square footage. The city manager mentioned some time back, she says, when you start talking about runoff, you do have to look at how much water runs off. That's one of the things that we went into, and I love that we used a factor of 2,500 square feet, I guess. But when you come down to what we see as current, and I'm looking at line 6 on page 42 of the special report, it says $1,200 is what we took in annually, and we're going to increase their rate by 870% as a recommendation only. We have to have the work done, but we also have to keep people in our city. For me, I don't mind. I mean, I can work 636 probably, roughly, as a homeowner, but when you have a business corporation that's running, and yeah, you're going to look at them and say 870. Somehow or another, those numbers aren't going to work for everybody. Unless it's proven, like you were saying, that runoff is charged by the square footage. And if we've been undercharging them, maybe that's why we've been getting some good businesses. But I think we're going to have to back off slowly unless these folks go out here and run down to the EPA. You guys need to go check out Junction City because they're in clear violation. And I don't think they will, but probably me talking about it here this evening, somebody out there will make the call, just like we did with the blue-green algae. And next thing you know, we got the folks living here. I want to do this. I want to make the city better. I want to get the runoff better because we keep reacting to things. We got the different ravines, and we got the bridge down there where the train's going over, being backwashed and washing away. That's what the stormwater is used for. We're continually to be reactive, but we've been trying for the last couple of years to be proactive, and right now we're still being reactive, and we're trying to get our wastewater fixed, we're trying to get our water fixed. We just can't go to someone and say, and accept this is what you should be paying, 870% increase. That's hard. I mean, you couldn't come to me as a homeowner and say, I need you to double up what you're paying. I can't do that, because that's $5 here, now I pay 10. This is $14, now I'm paying 18. And this is $18, now I'm paying $236 more. This was a bad time, kind of, sort of, but everything came because we were reactive. We can't go to 870 unless that's what everybody else is paying, and they know that. But there's no way we could go up that much on any particular person. And maybe we can back off on how we get these things done, but there's got to be a plan that approaches that. Anytime we look at that and say, you're going to double, you're going to triple, and by the way, you're going to more than triple, you're going to go up about 8 times what you're currently paying. That doesn't even pass the common sense test, but it's a test that tells us this is how we can do it in an ideal world. We're working in non-ideal. So we're working in broke, we're working in bankrupt. What can we really do? I love the analysis, and the evaluation is perfect, it's spot on. It was great work, your charts are excellent. I'd give you the Ranger tab tonight if I had one. PowerPoint Ranger, you're good. But the reality of 870%, I can't even go out there and look at somebody and say, hey, you like that apple? Pay for it 8 times and it's yours. I can't do that. So I'm hoping we can come back with, that's my direction. You know, everyone else may say something different, but that's kind of like what I'm looking at. Let's give them something that they can actually chew on and want to chew on it, because we have to present that as a city. We have to present that as an employer. We have to present that as a place for them to come and do business. And that's my 2 cents.
It's more like a nickel.
Probably about 6 cents, because there's an increase in 2015. And every year thereafter.
We're going to have to come to a decision on this, you know. It's going to be hard on businesses. But if we try to just say that every single address is going to pay the same amount, the retirees living in town won't have any money for anything. You know, they'll be gone. There will be more empty houses if we try to fund it that way. A little while ago, I was thinking that I could probably be willing to accept the first 5 chapters in this and say, yeah, we have a plan. But if we're going to sit up here and decide that we can't charge people to pay for it, we can't do anything, and we wasted the money by hiring you. I hope that's not what we do. I was going to ask if everybody was comfortable with the first 5 chapters, but
Well, the request from staff is to simply adopt the plan, remembering that these are only recommendations. Mainly to adopt the plan so that we can use the data for coming forth for the operations of the department.
And after our discussion, I mean, and I'll throw it out there, I move to approve the resolution R 2774 for the adoption of the stormwater master plan, which does not include any of the rate structure or any of that discussion.
Yeah.
But for guidance for the city and for future developers so that they can get understanding as to, code regulations and those kind of issues. So I guess we take all that part of it. So my motion is to approve the resolution R 2774 for the adoption of the stormwater master plan.
Without the financial.
Right, without the financial.
I would second that.
I have a motion and a second on the floor. Is there any further discussion?
None here.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The ayes have it, 4-0.
Thank you.
Now, we're just gonna have to take some time
And study the
and work
rest.
through this, and then give the city a time frame as to what we want to sit down and talk about.
And I definitely would like to get both of you, well, staff has your numbers, because I'll be calling and
We'll
asking
make
some.
ourselves available for a conference call or a series of calls or however you would like to.
It'll probably be just me calling, because I want to be smarter than these guys.
He'll call you a lot then.
10-1.
Just because he's old.
Wait for that comment.
Next on the agenda is consideration to set hearing for consideration of 2014 budget amendments.
I hope I can wrap these next 2 items very quickly. Annually, we either at the beginning of the year or at the end of the year, and sometimes both. This year we did both, a budget amendment at the beginning of the year. And at the end of the year, we look at the budget structure and make sure that we're not going to be out of compliance in any one budget. The Rural Housing Incentive District was budgeted at $295. We took in revenue for $425. Obviously, we want to pay for the debt payments out of that as much as possible. So we need to amend that budget to $425 so that it's in budget compliance. And the Library Fund took in additional revenue in delinquent taxes that was not anticipated in the budget process, and therefore that's an in and an out. And in order to pay it totally out for her, because she wants her money as soon as possible, we need to amend that budget to the $831,750. And so I'm asking for for you to simply tonight set the budget hearing, because remember, we have to post it as a budget hearing before you can actually adopt the budget amendments. So I'm requesting a budget hearing to be set for the December 16th at 7 p.m. at City Hall, as presented.
I'll move to schedule a public meeting for December 16th for the proposed budget amended as presented.
Second.
Amendments.
We have a motion and a second on the floor. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The ayes have it, 4-0. Next on the agenda is consideration of ordinance S 3131 to meet state budget requirements.
When I delivered the packets to you a couple weeks ago, when we did have these large documents, I pointed out to you that I had made a mistake in the budget process. And in the budget process, a new law was established that an ordinance needed to be passed if your budget exceeded 1.5%, more than a 1.5% increase. I thought it was for and direct to the mill levy. It was not to. It was actually to the totality of the budget that was being levied. So it was my error. So I called the state. The state said that to be in budget compliance, you still need to adopt the ordinance, even though it's after the fact, and that in the future, since this was a first year or first time this law went into effect, that I wasn't the only one that had failed to do that wrong, did it wrong. So I'm before you to say I made a mistake. There is no penalty or fine or anything that would come along if you didn't pass this. It's simply you'd get a letter from the state saying that next year you should be in compliance. You need to be in compliance with the law. You needed to pass this ordinance during the budget hearing process. So even though it seems awkward and after the fact, if we adopt it, then we're technically not in violation. It's a technicality. So I request that the S 3131 be passed based on budget compliance law.
Nothing changed,
Nothing changed.
except for we exceeded 1.5 cost of living.
Yes.
Okay. But we had already put
We did
that
not.
in.
We increased our mill levy like 0.02. I mean, it was a fraction of a deal, but it was the totality of the dollar amounts that put us over the 1.5.
Okay. I move to approve ordinance S 33131 as presented.
Second.
I have a motion and a second on the floor for approval of S 3131. Any further discussion?
None here.
All in favor?
Roll call.
Roll call.
Commissioner Aska,
Yes.
Mayor Ryan,
Yes.
Commissioner McAllister,
Yes.
Commissioner Sands.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0.
That brings us to commissioner comments.
Woo-hoo.
Commissioner Aska, do you have any comments?
Well, I would have had a bunch, but my computer wasn't working earlier today. No. I can always count on Jim. I trusted that everyone had a good Thanksgiving and hope that you enjoyed your loved ones that did spend that time with you. I know I did, so.
Oh, yeah.
The parade was good.
Yeah. I have nothing tonight.
Thank you. Commissioner McAllister.
Echo what Commissioner Aska had to say. The parade was great as well. Shop locally if you can. Understand that some things may not be available to you, but try it. Ask those folks, see if they can order it. Try and shop as much locally as you can. There's a lot of stuff that you may need that is here, so help out your community by doing that. I'd just like to say that as we move forward in this community, cost is never going to go down. The cost of doing business continues to rise. Everybody understands that every time they get a gas bill or an electric bill, and that continues to rise. And the cost of providing those services is something that we don't take lightly. It is very important to us as a commission to ensure that the community's best interest is always placed first. That's why we have these and we hammer these out and we talk this back and forth, and we understand the nickel and diamond and how much it has cost to live in the community over the past 6-8 years. It's not going to get a whole lot better. We're trying to stabilize it, but we also have to keep in mind that there are multiple things that need to be taken care of, repaired, replaced, things that maybe got overlooked because we couldn't afford it. Not that we can afford it now, or not that we can afford it in the future. We can no longer continue to let our infrastructure fail. If we do that, it is going to cost us exponentially more than we can afford today. Today's dollars are a whole lot easier to come by than tomorrow's dollars. So please understand that we are looking at this very carefully, sometimes with heavy heart,
because we understand. We've lived in this community, we're part of this community, and we're trying to make the best decisions for our community. Sometimes that's not going to be the best decision for you individually, but we're looking at it as a community as a whole. Please bear with us. We have your best interest in our mind. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner McAllister. Commissioner Sands.
I echo some of the thoughts of my brother and Commissioner Vice Mayor McAllister. And I do want to talk about the stormwater a little bit. That's, like I say, it's being collected. We are collecting for that, and we've been collecting for a while. We were looking at an increase to do the right things with stormwater. Again, that bar chart did an excellent job. You don't even have to talk. When you put that up there, this is what we're taking in, that's what we need, that's the deficit. It talks it pretty intelligently. I wanted to talk about snow removal, and I'll leave that to Mr. McCafferty because someone came up to me today, and I knew it was about that time, but I told him I'd get him an answer just to make sure that we tell everybody when the side streets are hit. So when you come forward, would you talk about when the side streets are plowed? When we do, because I told him we don't plow them unless there's a certain amount of snow or we're done, or if I'm in a snow truck somewhere plowing them. I want to tell everyone happy holidays, Merry Christmas. We had a great Christmas parade, and some people probably saw me think I didn't hand out candy. I just said Merry Christmas, and I was probably the Commissioner Santa Claus for the city. But I had a great time. It wasn't that cold. I was. Santa Claus.
That's why you didn't have any candy.
I had candy and I gave it away because I knew it wouldn't last, and it still didn't last. But we had an excellent time. Great parade. There's so much spirit out there, and there were people everywhere. And like I said, family came in once from Denver, and they saw our parade, and it's like, dang, this is the image of a parade. We don't do this in a big city. It's done well, very well, right here in our city. And as Dewey asked me when I was feeling some dead air, I had a great time. I lost my voice and still tried to do an interview. Our new city manager was there. He was here checking out the area, looking for a house, looking where he may want to build a house, or he's looking at a house that's currently standing but not built exactly the way he wants. So he has an active interest in being here. Met him, his youngest daughter, and his wife. They're very in tune with Junction City. He still knows how to get around, except for he did get lost going to an establishment that was here before. We put in a couple new detours.
A roundabout or two.
A roundabout or two. That wasn't here before. Be good to your neighbors, all right? Check in on them, because not all of them are well, not all of them are able to get out. So check on your neighbors. Get out there, help them with some Christmas lights. There's some up in my neighborhood. I did theirs and didn't do mine, but I didn't do a lot of it. But Christmas is here. I want to tell everyone Merry Christmas. You have a great holiday, and be good to each other. Think about the season and not about being so daggone depressed. I was out today with my happy face like I always am, and I tell you what, it was almost depressing today. There was some folks out there just gritting the fact, I don't know why, but they're off. They weren't working because I wasn't working. I'm living a retired life, just like my three compadres here.
No, we work.
We work.
We work. I ain't doing it. But anyway, Mr. Mayor, that's all I got. I'm sorry. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and I'll see you at the next meeting before Christmas.
And Merry Christmas to you too, Commissioner Sands. Yeah, I work. I read.
I read a
studies.
lot. That's right. This is work here.
Heck, I carry it around. That's work. Commissioner McAllister, I agree with what you said. We had a lot of good discussion tonight. And the Christmas parade was wonderful, just like Commissioner Sands said. Saw a lot of families out there and friends, people having a good time, a lot of happy people, smiling people. Even Jim was smiling that night.
Is there a time when I don't?
And that's really all I had. Mrs. Beatty?
I just had, if you didn't get your email invitation to the employee Christmas event, and send in your RSVP, please do. We have, this is a record. We have 175 employees already signed up, and children. Santa will be there, and I hope you can attend on December 13th. We'll invite the new manager, December 13th at 5 o'clock. It's here in the gym this year, in the gymnasium. We will invite the new manager, since he's home on weekends in Abilene. I'm hoping he can attend that night, so he can start meeting some of the employees.
So that's 12, 13, 14 at 5.
How about that? Again, that Christmas event is at very low cost to the city. The employees participate, and we just have a good time, basically. Get together and chance to socialize with each other. And it's also a time where we get a chance to thank the employees for good job done. We've had another good year towards our sustainability and done some great things this year. I would agree with your comments on shop local. The last couple years in particular, my husband and I tried to make a real point of shopping as much local as we could, and we've been very successful at it, getting most of our Christmas gifts right here in town. As you commented, there's a few things that you can't get locally, but very few, and so we do encourage people to shop local.
Great. Mrs. Logan?
I don't have anything.
I don't have anything tonight.
Chief Brown.
Mayor, I just wanted to say that we have completed the upgrade of the Junction City, Gary County Mobile Command Post. And it's my intention, if everything goes well, to have it on display for the commissioner and citizens inspection on the next meeting at 6 o'clock. And so we'll have it out there for an hour. We'll have it all set up. We'll have staff that's been trained on how to use it now out there to be able to answer any questions that you might have about it. So it's our intent to have it out there on the next, at 6 o'clock on the next meeting.
Is that when I get to drive it?
If you'd like, Cecil, you may.
I want to remind people, because people don't, just like on the fire truck was done with FEMA grant money, this was done with drug task force money, drug money. It was not tax dollars that enabled our community to be very well prepared for a disaster because of this, and have this mobile command unit. This is, it's hard to describe unless you've been through a major disaster, but these type of pieces of equipment are very, very helpful during a disaster.
And we have outfitted this with a third dispatch. So we have, as well, you know, the police department is only about a block and a half away from the railroad track down there. And we all know that Junction City is susceptible to a railroad derailment. So it's always been a big concern of us, in addition to the possibility of a tornado. We have a backup, and we have completed a backup emergency dispatch center at Fire Station 2. I think, Mayor, you've seen that out there. That's complete. We still have to integrate the phone system in out there, but that's ongoing. And now we also have a third dispatch capability out of this mobile command post. Now, this mobile command post will be kept at the fire station out out by the dam, just up the road from Old Milford Road. So that way we don't have all our ducks in one row. Tornado gets Fire Station 2 and the police department, then we still have that third ability out there. So our emergency comm is now redundant, and so I just want to make sure I'm really proud of this thing, and there's been a lot of hard work put on by our vendor on this thing. So I really want everybody to have a chance, an opportunity to take a look at it here on the 16th.
And this was a shared project with
That's correct.
with the
county.
With the county.
That's correct, and it is available to all emergency services and, frankly, governments within the county. So if for some reason City Hall got hit and you needed to run this as this could be a backup office for a temporary period of time until you get. I think it has all the radios, it has phones, it has cameras, it's got everything, lighting, the whole 9 yards. So I would please encourage everybody and the citizens to come out and see it.
Chief, on a different subject, are we seeing any backlash or anything from Ferguson in our area?
No, sir, we are not.
Appreciate it.
Chief Royce?
Cecil drive it.
Mr. McCaffrey?
Commissioner Sands sort of caught me on it, and I did want to take this opportunity as it is right around the corner, snow season, or I call it winter operations. And because of the sickness of some staff this week, we didn't get a chance to get it up yet this week, but we will have it in the next day or two on the website. We've got a condensed version of our snow and ice policy that we adopted several years ago. It outlines as far as what streets are considered priority 1 through 4, and also we have a prioritization of, be it 1 through 4, of different snow events and what particular streets get plowed, what gets salted, in what order. It is a very succinct one-page sheet. We call it a white paper. We'll have it up on the city's webpage. We'll also get it to the media here so that hopefully maybe they can get it out there. I do know I've got a couple of your towns scheduled coming up here with the radio. We are going to try to emphasize that. I would like to note that we are going to do some modifications this year in Public Works on trying to further get to cul-de-sacs sooner than we have if we do get a significant event. The other thing I wanted to note is that we've added another truck into the fleet by retrofitting the one that we took back from the Gary, community hospital, or college, excuse me, retrofitted it. So we are trying to do everything we can to be able to better clear snow as far as within the community. The other thing I wanted to note with respects to that is, should we have a snow emergency declared, and we have had those in the past, I suspect that we're going to, through the city manager's office, be looking for those if deemed necessary. The intent of those, again, is for your safety so that we can clean those streets in an efficient manner and an effective manner, and likewise for the safety of our drivers so that they can be able to operate the equipment in and around as far as those streets when a snow emergency is deemed. So there has been a significant number of additional signs to further identify this to the community on whether indeed you're on a snow route. Just because you're on a snow route does not mean your street's going to get plowed first, okay? Don't take it that way. It means that you need to remove your vehicle from the street within 24 hours notice of that being declared, okay? And that's really what the snow emergency route signage is for, so that we can properly clear those. And that's all I wanted to note. All
Thank you,
right?
Mr. McCafferty.
Mr. Gurman,
Nothing, sir.
motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Further discussion.
I guess we keep our books, right?